You know, when you stand before York Minster, you're looking at something that feels, well, eternal. It's more than just a cathedral. It's this absolute masterpiece of Gothic architecture that seems like it's completely defied time itself.
I mean, it's the biggest one in England, this incredible monument of stone and glass. And when you see it, you just get this feeling of permanence, right? Like it has always been here and it's always gonna be here, looking exactly the same.
But that's the illusion, isn't it? That serene, timeless beauty hides a much, much more dramatic story. This isn't just about preserving a building. It's a breathtaking story of survival against, honestly, almost impossible odds.
So let's start with one of its oldest and most relentless enemies, fire.
And we're not talking about a one-off accident, no way. Fire has been this constant, reoccurring nightmare for the Minster. You can see it on the timeline. But two of these fires were just unbelievably dramatic. One, an act of deliberate arson in 1829, and the other, literally a bolt from the blue in 1984.
Okay, so get this story from 1829. A guy named Jonathan Martin actually hides inside the Minster after a service. Why? Well, apparently he just hated the sound of the grand organ. He was heard saying, "I'll have thee down tonight, thou shalt buzz no more." And he did it. He set a fire that totally gutted the medieval choir and destroyed that organ. He was eventually caught, but declared insane.
Then flash forward to 1984. A massive lightning strike just tears through the south transept. And look at this image of the aftermath. It's devastating. The roof is completely gone. The whole thing is just open to the sky. But this perfectly captures the Minster story, because right next to the destruction, you see the rebirth. The diagram shows the brand new roof they designed, not just to replace the old one, but to make it even better.
But fire wasn't the only threat. Sometimes the most terrifying danger wasn't coming from the outside at all. It was coming from within the Minster itself.
You see, the sheer weight of this building has always been a massive problem. In fact, the central tower had already collapsed once, way back in a storm in 1405. And then, in the 1960s, a modern survey revealed a terrifying secret. It was getting ready to happen all over again.
Just try to wrap your head around this number. 16,000 tons. That's how much the central tower weighs. And engineers discovered it was slowly, but surely, sinking. The ancient foundations were failing. The very heart of the cathedral was on the brink of a catastrophic collapse.
It was an all-hands-on-deck emergency. The only way to save the Minster was to dig deep beneath it and shore up the foundations. And as they were digging, they stumbled onto something that would completely rewrite the history of York.
It was like a time capsule, 2,000 years of history layered right there under their feet. They found the remains of Roman barracks from 71 AD, an Anglo-Saxon cemetery, Viking burial grounds, even the foundations of the original Norman cathedral from 1080. It's just incredible, isn't it? The very crisis that threatened to destroy the building ended up revealing its deepest, oldest secrets.
So, surviving fires and near collapses is one thing. But what about all the priceless art inside? How do you preserve that? York Minster has the biggest collection of medieval stained glass in the entire country, and its crown jewel is the Great East Window. Now, to give you an idea of the scale here, it's about the size of a tennis court. Just picture that for a second. An entire tennis court made of fragile 600-year-old glass. It's just mind-boggling. So saving it was, as you can imagine, a monumental task. One of the biggest conservation projects in European history. They took out every single one of its 311 panels, restored them painstakingly by hand, and put them all back. The whole thing took over a decade. But today, that masterpiece is safe, protected by some seriously cutting-edge technology.
But the story of the Minster's glass isn't always about just fixing what's broken. Sometimes it's about reinvention. It's about finding a whole new meaning in a piece of ancient art.
And that brings us to the Five Sisters window. So, the year's 1922, right after the horrors of the First World War, and a woman named Helen Little has this incredibly powerful dream, where she sees her own sisters who had passed away, and they're pointing to this window. In the dream, she cries out, "The sisters' window for the sisters."
Now this window looks very different from the others. It's made in a special style called grisaille. What that means is it's created almost entirely in shades of gray and other neutral colors. So instead of bright, vibrant colors, it has this quiet, dignified, almost hauntingly beautiful look. So Helen Little woke up from that dream, inspired. She started a national campaign to restore the window and dedicate it as a memorial to the 1,514 women who died in service during the war.
And just like that, a 13th century work of art was completely transformed, given this profound new purpose for the modern world.
When you put all these stories together, you start to see the bigger picture. York Minster is not some static relic that's been perfectly preserved under glass. Far from it. It's a living, breathing survivor. Its scars, the scorch marks, the reinforced foundations, they aren't flaws. They're part of its identity, telling the story of its incredible resilience.
You know, every single generation has had to face its own challenges to keep this masterpiece standing, and every single one has added its own layer to the story. It really is this enduring saga of survival and reinvention, and it leaves us with a pretty big question. What stories will